Good afternoon all, welcome to May. We've had to move the screen, can you hear me okay? We've had to move the screen back to try and generate a reasonable attempt at colour on it because of the lantern light. What have we got to say today? Oh yes, quick updates now. This is the known knowns, things you already know. So fairly boring, but it's the only boring bit of today that you're going to get. I'm going to reprise the PHC conference, which is May 19th, a couple of weeks' time, and then catch up with Steve Bennett, who was our guest speaker last month, see what he's been doing on his London Marathon. And he mentioned something about insulin and the locking of fat cells, so I thought you'd be interested in some photography that we've got. Trying some new technology here, which isn't working. Very good. So first thing first, we've got 19 and 20 May. Anybody here going to that event? My wife. Good. I should have a nice weekend then. Steve Bennett. Right, I'm going to have to sit down for this. As you will recall, Steve was doing the marathon a week or two, or whenever it was anyway. Apparently in London, and he tweeted something. So we're going to try and bring you the tweet and see if we can make it work. Live over the interwebs, as they say. Predictably. No sound. I can translate for you in any event. Okay, the translation. As soon as I try to translate it, he comes on, doesn't he? Anyway, he's sat in his car and he's giving some numbers out about his results, which are very, very impressive. It's the day after the event, and he ate something the previous night, which is the first time he'd eaten for 9 days. So he fasted for 9 days and then ran the marathon very successfully. And you should see in a graphic will come up very shortly on screen. Is a wonderful piece of science. He didn't generate any glycogen because he didn't eat anything at all, so he's running completely off ketones. And if you're not using any glucose for your energy, you don't produce lactic acid. What is... I'll stop him now because he's interrupting me. If you don't use glucose as your power supply, for want of a better word, you don't produce any lactic acid. What is lactic acid? Lactic acid is the exhaust or the outcome of burning glucose in your body. What does it do? It cramps your muscles. That's the reason the next day you can barely walk if you've started something new in the gym or you ran about somewhere and you're not used to running. It's the production of lactic acids inside the muscles as the mitochondria is burning the glucose. Because you're burning ketones, it doesn't do that, so you don't get the pain the next day. I thought you'd be interested in that. He also says that his heart rate, so this is the morning after, his heart rate there, came onto the screen, was 53, which I think is about 53 years of age as well, so that's pretty impressive. And he also had blood pressure of something, I think, like 116 over 63. And and 63 is bordering on too low. So very impressive numbers from our man Steve. So let's get back to the presentation. Oh, that's right. So he mentioned very briefly, I think it's worth me emphasising what he said with some photography. What he said in his presentation was that if you've got a surfeit of insulin in your bloodstream and it's putting away blood sugar, it shuts your fat cells. So you cannot utilise fat as a form of energy in that circumstance. And that circumstance is common in most of the population because they're doing the grazing thing and they're eating this and eating that and so on. And they're drinking coffees, some coffees over 1,000 calories in them. In fact, the winner of the Daily Mail competition a few years ago had 2,200 calories in one coffee. I think it was Costa Coffee. So a very important point, and here's the photography to prove that point. These are people that are injecting insulin, so they've gone past the metformin situation. If you remember, the first triage position in the GP, well, in the NHS for diabetics is to go on metformin. Metformin forces blood sugar into your fat stores. That's what it does, because your fat stores have been refusing it. Well, actually, your insulin's been refusing it and has not been putting it in the fat stores. And the first step in treatment is to force your body to put it in the fat stores, metformin. The second step, when that gives up, which it does eventually, because it's your dietary consumption that's causing the problem. So over the years, that problem's not going away, it's just getting worse. So the second step is injection of insulin. So they put more insulin into the system to do the same thing, which is force it back into the fat stores. Now, as evidence to say that insulin doesn't let any fat out, we've got this photography. 3 examples. Oh, yes. Now, they look like something else, but they're actually mainly males, mainly stomachs, where the injection site of the alternate the injection sites, and it traps the fat in the fat cells. So I just wanted to show you that. Now, our main man today, guest speaker, is Alan Gray. As you know, he's going to talk to us about, funny enough, fat. And he'll be on for around 40 minutes. And after Alan, I'll come and talk about some fairly interesting aspects of more science, less fiction. Over to Alan. I'm just going to switch the technical matters.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Can everybody hear me? Or can anybody not? Right, I'm going to talk to you about the last of the 3 aspects of nutrition and how your body deals with food. So I'm also going to cover 1 or 2 other aspects, but in particular aspects about lipids. We've already talked about carbohydrates, we've talked about proteins. Lipids are the 3rd macronutrient, but there are micronutrients as well, which I'm not going to cover, basically vitamins and minerals. So lipids, if they're solid at room temperature, they're called fats. That's not a scientific term, it's a practical term. They're mostly saturated fats like butter, lard, and they're usually animal-derived fats. If they're liquid at room temperature, they're called oils, and they can be derived from, in general, seed oils from plants. Not exclusively. Olive oil is essentially a seed oil because the olive is a seed. But it differs and I'll tell you why later, from other seed oils because it is cold pressed and essentially that's it. If you get extra virgin olive oil, the only thing that's been done to it is that the olives have effectively been pressed in a mechanical press. Other seed oils are somewhat different. And there's the minerals, micronutrients, some of which are fat soluble. Now this is an important point. When you